There are places in England where history isn't preserved. It's forgotten, where stone walls crumble quietly beneath roots and moss. And the forest doesn't just surround the past, it's taking it back. You can almost feel the weight of the silence here, a kind of peaceful melancholy. These aren't the polished attractions you find in guidebooks. They are something else entirely, something wilder and I think more authentic. They ask something of you, a bit of effort, a bit of patience. Most people visit castles with ticket booths, cafes and crowds, but here in Shropshire, some of the most atmospheric medieval ruins cost nothing at all. No entry fee, no queues, just you, the woods, and whatever stories are still hiding in the shadows. It's a transaction based not on money, but on curiosity. A different kind of tourism, perhaps, one where the reward is the quiet satisfaction of discovery. Today, we're finding 5 forgotten castles deep in the forests of Shropshire, all on a budget. Before heading out, let's keep this simple and cheap. You don't need expensive gear, but you do need to be prepared. Offline maps on apps like Google Maps or All Trails, a power bank, signal drops fast out here, waterproof boots, because Shropshire mud does not mess around, and a basic rain jacket. It is England after all. Most of these places are unmanaged, no staff, no facilities, so plan ahead and respect the land. It's a very simple contract. The land offers its secrets, and in return you leave it as you found it. Our first stop is Hopton Castle. From the road, it looks almost deceptively simple. A single defiant stone keeps standing in a field. There's a small car park, and that's it. No gift shop, no audio guide, just a sign that tells you a little of its story. The most striking thing when you first get out of the car is the quiet. It's a profound sort of peace, the kind that feels ancient. It's hard to reconcile this tranquility with the castle's brutal history. It feels like a place that has earned its rest. This keep was the site of a notoriously vicious siege during the English Civil War. A small parliamentarian force held out for 3 weeks against a royalist army 500 strong. When they finally surrendered, the story goes that they were tied back to back and thrown into the moat to drown. Standing here now, with the wind rustling the leaves and the birds singing in the trees, that violence feels impossibly distant. It's a strange juxtaposition, the beauty of the present against the horror of the past. You can walk right up to it, touch the cold stone that has stood for nearly 1,000 years. The entry is completely free, managed by a trust that simply asks for respect. Inside, it's a shell. The floors are gone, leaving it open to the sky. You look up through the empty window frames and see clouds drifting past. There's a strange sense of intimacy in that, standing inside a structure that has been so completely hollowed out by time and conflict, yet somehow remains standing, dignified. The silence here is heavy. It's not an empty silence. It feels full of unspoken stories. You find yourself speaking in a hushed voice, almost instinctively. It's the kind of place that invites contemplation. You start to wonder about the people who lived here, who fought here, who died here. What were their lives like? What did they see looking out of these same window openings? The castle doesn't give you the answers, but it makes you ask the questions. It's an easy start to our journey. Accessible, free, and yet it immediately sets the tone. It's a reminder that history isn't always loud. Sometimes its most powerful statements are made in the quietest of places. You leave feeling not like you've seen a ruin, but that you visited a memorial. A memorial to a battle, yes, but also to the relentless and sometimes peaceful passage of time itself. Next is Stapleton Castle, And this is where the challenge really begins. There are no signs pointing the way. It doesn't appear on most tourist maps. It's a place you have to want to find. We parked in the tiny village of Stapleton, and from there, it's a matter of following a public footpath that feels more like a farmer's private track. It's a test of nerve, that feeling that you might be trespassing, even when the map tells you you're not. The path leads you uphill, through fields of sheep who seem vaguely unimpressed by your quest. The views of the surrounding countryside open up, but the castle remains hidden. You start to doubt yourself. Is it really here? Did I take a wrong turn? The path gets muddier, more overgrown. You have to push through nettles and brambles, and you rely on instinct as much as the map on your phone. It's a small adventure in itself, just the act of getting there. And then you see it. Through a gap in the trees, a shard of stone wall juts out against the sky. It's a sudden, dramatic reveal. The ruins are perched on a steep motte, completely cloaked in ivy and tangled woodland. There are no safety barriers, no manicured lawns. This is history in its rawest form. Crumbling walls, precarious arches and tree roots that are slowly, patiently pulling the stones apart. It feels like a discovery, something you've earned. Exploring Stapleton is an exercise in caution. You have to watch your footing, gauge which walls look stable. It feels a world away from the managed safety of a heritage site. This is a place that hasn't been tamed for visitors. It's a ruin that is being allowed to decay naturally, to return to the earth. There's a raw beauty to that. You feel less like a tourist and more like an explorer, picking your way through a genuine piece of the past that the modern world has largely passed by. Standing on the edge of the Motte, looking out over the Welsh Marches, you get a sense of why it was built here. It's a commanding position, a guardian of the border. But now its battle is not with armies, but with gravity and nature. There's a melancholy here, but also a strange sense of freedom. This castle doesn't belong to an organization. It seems to belong only to itself and to the woods. And for a short while it feels like it belongs to you too, the one who bothered to come and find it. Wattlesborough Castle is, well, a different kind of surprise altogether. It's not hidden deep in a forest, but rather it's hidden in plain sight. You drive down a narrow country lane past a working farm, and suddenly, there it is, a single, formidable stone tower, attached to a much later brick farmhouse. It's an architectural oddity, a medieval stronghold that's been sort of absorbed into domestic life. It's a private home now, but the ancient tower stands on land with public access. There are no facilities here, no car park, no cafe, not even a bench. You just pull over on a grassy verge, being careful not to block a gate. The immediate impression is one of quiet endurance. This isn't really a ruin, it's a survivor, a fortified manor house, a Pell tower that's been continuously occupied in one form or another for over 700 years. It hasn't been forgotten, it's been adapted, repurposed, lived alongside. You can walk right around the base of the tower. The stone is a patchwork of different eras of repair. You spot the narrow slit windows designed for archers, right next to the larger windows of the more peaceful farmhouse. It's a building that tells a story of changing times, of the shift from a land of conflict to a land of agriculture. The family who live here seem to coexist with their piece of history in a remarkably normal way. You might see washing hanging on a line with a 13th century fortress as a backdrop. It really makes you think about our relationship with history. We tend to put it in a museum behind a rope. But here it's part of the furniture, it's the wall of someone's garden. It's a landmark you drive past on your way to the shops. This lack of ceremony is, in its own way, deeply respectful. The castle isn't being treated as a relic, it's being treated as a continuing part of the landscape and of people's lives. There's a strange intimacy to it. You feel like you're seeing something you're not supposed to see, even though it's perfectly legal. It's a glimpse behind the curtain of everyday life, where the extraordinary and the mundane have learned to live together. Wattlesborough isn't about the thrill of discovery in a dark wood. It's about the quiet wonder of finding history alive and well, hiding in the most ordinary of places. If Stapleton was a challenge to find, then Motte Castle is honestly a challenge to see. This is the point in the journey where you really need to engage your imagination. We're looking for what's known as a Motte and Bailey castle, one of the earliest types of Norman fortress, and, quite often, all that's left of them are their bones, the earthworks they were built upon. There are no towering stone walls here. There's no keep. There's only the ghost of a castle. Finding it involves parking near a small church and following a footpath sign that seems to lead into, well, just an ordinary field. You cross a stile, and there, in the middle of the pasture, is a large cone-shaped mound covered in trees. That's it. That's the Motte. To the untrained eye, it's just a hill, a geological feature. But when you know what you're looking for, you start to see the shapes, the steep, man-made sides of the Motte, the faint, sweeping curve of the Bailey, the enclosure where the barracks and stables would have been. You have to squint a little, mentally stripping away the centuries of soil and grass. You imagine the wooden palisade that would have run along the top. You picture the timber watchtower that once stood on this very mound, commanding a view over the valley. It's an act of historical reconstruction, happening entirely inside your own head. The landscape itself becomes the museum exhibit, and you are the curator. This is perhaps the most subtle form of castle hunting. It's not for everyone. It lacks the instant gratification of a great stone ruin, but there's a unique satisfaction to it. It connects you to the very earliest phase of castle building in this country. These earthworks are the foundations, both literally and figuratively, of all the great castles that came later. Standing here, you're at the origin story. It's also a powerful reminder of how completely nature can reclaim a place. Without the stone to endure, the wooden structures have vanished without a trace, leaving only their footprint on the land. It's a humbling thought. All that effort, all that power, all that ambition, reduced to a grassy mound in a sheep field. It's the ultimate budget castle, costing nothing but a little bit of time and a healthy dose of imagination. Our final castle, Clun, is by far the most well-known on our list. It's managed by English Heritage, it has a proper car park, and on a sunny day you'll see families having picnics on its lawns. It seems at first to be the opposite of what we've been looking for. It's not forgotten. But the secret to Clun isn't the castle itself, but how you explore it. Most visitors stick to the main path, walk up to the keep, take a photo, and then leave. But the real magic of Clun is found off the beaten track. The castle sits on a hill above the River Clun, and the grounds around it are surprisingly quite extensive and wild. If you leave the main grassy area and follow the little trails that snake down towards the river, the atmosphere changes completely. The crowds disappear. You find yourself in a tangle of trees and undergrowth, with the castle looming above you from an entirely new perspective. Down here, by the water's edge, you find forgotten corners of the fortifications, sections of wall that have tumbled down the bank and now lie half submerged in the earth. You can see the immense thickness of the foundations, details that are invisible from the top. It feels like you've slipped behind the scenes of the main attraction. The sounds of the town are muffled, replaced by the sound of the river and the wind in the reeds. This is where you get that sense of discovery back, Even in a popular spot, you're seeing the castle not as a polished monument, but as part of a living, breathing landscape. You can sit on a fallen stone that few other people will have sat on that day and look up at the jagged silhouette of the keep. It's about finding a personal, private moment in a public space. It's a reminder that even the most famous places have secrets to tell, if you're willing to look for them. Clun teaches a valuable lesson for budget travel. You don't always have to go to the most obscure places to find a sense of adventure. Sometimes you just have to change your angle. You have to walk the path that others don't to look at the familiar from an unfamiliar viewpoint. And here, in the shadow of this great popular ruin, we found our own little piece of forgotten history right by the river. Let's talk cost. Entry fees, 0. Parking, often free or, as with Clun, under £3. Transport. The cheapest option is car sharing or looking up regional trains and buses, but honestly, a car is definitely easiest. Food. Bring your own. Countryside cafes are lovely, but, well, limited, and a flask of tea and a sandwich while sitting on a 900-year-old wall is hard to beat. You can explore all 5 of these sites in a weekend for less than a single ticket to a major tourist attraction. Shropshire doesn't try to impress you. It doesn't restore everything or polish its history for display. Instead, it lets time, weather, and wilderness tell the story. And maybe that's why these places feel different. Because out here, you're not just visiting history, you're finding it. It's a more active process. You're piecing together clues, using your imagination, and connecting with the past on a much more personal, almost elemental level. These ruins, in their quiet, crumbling states, offer something that a perfectly preserved building cannot. They offer a sense of perspective, a feeling of the immense, slow, unstoppable power of nature and time. They remind you that everything eventually falls apart, and there's a strange comfort in that, a kind of peace. So, next time you're looking for an escape, maybe don't look for the biggest or the best preserved. Look for the forgotten.